Happy Star Wars Visions Week. Thank the Force. We are live here on Star Wars News Net live with a exciting show today because today we're going to get into like some rankings, some like little draft that we have going on because our main topic of today is going to be whether I thought I had the image, but I didn't. Our main topic tonight, we are going to, Tom and I go head to head, and we are going to draft characters that we want to see more of in Star Wars. Like, we need more of this character, and this was thought of from the Forbidden Solo news and everything going on in Star Wars there. So we thought it'd be fun if we kind of compiled a list of the characters we feel like we need to see more of in, Star Wars in some capacity. Obviously thinking, major live action series, a movie, or, a titular like animated show moving forward, right? Like something significant beyond, not the books or shorts aren't significant, but something beyond like, hey, we're going to write a filler novel for this character because of this. No, we want to talk about who are the characters we need more of on our screens. And I have a list, Tom, of 21 characters, and all of my characters had to appear on a TV screen or on a screen in some capacity. I have no like book only, comic only type characters, nothing like that. They would have had to have appeared on the screen in some capacity. I have 21 of them. I am excited to get into this. But first, Tom, how are we doing? What are the vibes? Have we been able to partake in Visions yet?
I am about halfway through Visions, 50%, and it's just amazing. It's something that sometimes I don't always, when it drops, I'm like, okay, great, I got to sit down and watch it, but I'm always so blown away by the visuals. And the great thing about it too is I tell people, you don't have to know anything about Star Wars to just jump into it. If you're a fan of good animation, if you're a fan of, science fiction, just give it a shot. And it's so, and I love it for that reason too. It's so imaginative. They're not bound by the rules of canon or by timelines or anything like that. So they really have free reign, and it's just visually stunning. Like I said, before this show, I just finished the 4th episode, which is the Bounty Hunters one, and it's visually stunning, and the storytelling is really good. It's like I want to see more of these characters. I want to know more about them. I know that the Ninth Jedi, they're kind of extending that into something a little
like
bit
a full
more
series type thing, right?
Yeah, which is great because I'm so sucked into the story of that, and it was, that particular one is very emotional too. Just the way they push the boundaries, and they have the other ones, some of them that are really just fun and kind of breaking all the rules, and it's just amazing. And I recommend it for everyone to go out. I can't wait to finish the series.
It's like you have in season 1, right? You have like Night Jedi, Village Bride, some of these really hard-hitting stories, perhaps. And then you have like Tatooine Rhapsody that also exists in the same season of Visions, right? And we love the fact that all can coexist together. It's a Star Wars after all, nothing crazy here. We're just talking Star Wars. But
and
I have not
it feels very, I'm sorry to cut you, it feels very Japanese. Like it just has, you see that culture coming through in the way that it's made, and some of the quirkiness of that. It's really amazing.
I'm excited to watch it. I'm hoping that maybe like next Monday, Tuesday, I'll be able to watch all of them all the way through, and that'll lead me into what we hopefully next Thursday can do a full Visions recap of season 3, because I would like to make sure I catch up by then. So, and then at some point maybe we can do a whole Visions ranking, just take all that'd be like super. Okay, we got We got nothing else going on. Let's rank all the Visions. Give a Visions tier list. I saw Nate put one out on Star Wars News at Social Day. So I was like, what? What the heck? Why don't we do that? One more order of business here, Tom, before we get going. And I honestly, there's not a whole lot of news that I really want to discuss this week before, because I think that our main conversation tonight is going to be rather extensive. I think we're going to be covering quite a bit, and there's like that thousands of stories we could branch off in with the characters we're going to bring up tonight. But I did want to say that I did read our friend Rob's review for Master of Evil, the Darth Vader book that comes out in November. And
Mhm.
the review got dropped, I believe, yesterday or the day before. And man, that felt like a gut punch. And he did a phenomenal job. It's a great review. I'm not saying that it was a poorly written review. I'm saying that the fact that everything he was saying in his review made total sense, given that he's read the book, obviously, but just how he was portraying the disappointment that this book probably was. And it felt like a total gut punch, because this was going to be the book that revived me from what I just read with The Last Order. This was going to be a book that ended our year of Star Wars books on such a high, with this Darth Vader Palpatine novel that's going to really get into the lore of the dark side and delve into that. And it sounds like it was anything but what we thought it was going to be.
I can't judge a book by its cover, as they say, because that cover is amazing. But it's kind of sad, like you said. It was disappointing to see that it didn't meet expectations, and we all had high expectations for that. And again, I haven't read it, so I can't really judge yet. But from what was said in the review about what it did with the story, as far as not really focusing on the goods that we thought it was going to deliver,
Yeah,
is
definitely
something unexpected, kind of similar to your review of The Last Order, where you were expecting something and you were like all excited for what it could have been. So
And it's not even unfair expectations, because I felt like
right,
my expectations for The Last Order were pretty sound, considering what we were told it was going to be.
right.
Just like for anyone going into Master of Evil and anticipating a deep, introspective, intense look into Darth Vader and what's going on in his mind, his pursuit of becoming the master of evil, of mastering the dark side, and kind of going through like all of the Darth Plagueis type stuff that he's wanting to learn. Like, they released some of the, sounds like the excerpts they released of that are the main part of the book that talked about that. Like, that, yep, there you go. That was it. And it felt like we were duped once again. And I will say, though, that I put a message on, or put a TikTok out there talking about like how Star Wars publishing kind of feels rudderless right now. And a lot of this was masked, no pun intended, by like Vader's mask. Yeah, but or Mask of Fear. But a lot of this was masked by the High Republic. Because if you're a big fan of the High Republic and you're someone like me that was reading everything, if someone told me, oh, Star Wars publishing is rudderless right now, like they don't really have a direction, I would have been like, what are you talking about? But if you're not a fan of the High Republic, then I could definitely see where you've been with that for the last few years. And then now that the High Republic is over, there's just this glaring hole in Star Wars publishing of telling these really impactful, meaningful stories. And I'm hoping that next year we have that Rey Leia book. We have, the part 2 of like Reign of the Empire. I'm hoping that maybe we start finding a through line, but a lot of it, they kind of have to figure out where they're going, what direction they're going in. They have to be willing to tell big stories with characters, because they're just not doing that right now.
I remember being young and reading Splinter of the Mind's Eye when it came out, and it's great if you get a chance. As far as the quality of it, I don't know how it stands up to the novels today, but what was great is that they took so many risks in that book, because it was it's what we thought was going to be. I'm trying to think of if it came out before Empire or Jedi. I think it came out before Jedi, and it took like massive swings. It had Luke go up against Vader, and it was so exciting to have that in between. Of course, we didn't have all the content that's available now, but I feel like with the books, they're almost so I feel like it turns a lot of people off. Like I know you're going to read whatever is put out, but I think for people like myself, I'm very selective now about what I'm going
Yeah.
to read, and a review like that would turn me away from a book I probably would have loved to dive into
Well, I
because
haven't
you feel
hit
like you're not
every
giving
single
us.
book that's come out. I've hit every single High Republic book because I was just
Yeah,
completely entrenched in that story. But I've had to pick and choose my spots with the others because there's so many High Republic things that came out. Like I just got to Mask of Fear, a good month ago, and that came out, in the spring. And like I never read some of these books. I kind of wait, get the Star Wars news net, whoever reviews it for the site. If it's not me, like all right, what's the synopsis here? Like, what's the consensus? And if it's really good, I'm like, all right, I'll go ahead and take that on. But if it's just kind of all right, here we go, another 6 out of 10 filler story, I'm not really that interested. And I'm not necessarily going to get back to it or make a point of reading it until I guess Luke and I get there for the timeline show. Like, that's really all I'm in for right now.
they're kind of with the, I guess, because they want to tell the stories of the main characters in the movies or TV shows. They're not giving anything to the books that actually center around those characters. So something like the High Republic, where it's a publishing initiative, their stories are being told there. They could do whatever they want. They could take the risks. They could develop the characters. They could make certain choices.
Right.
And you feel like you're not getting that with the main characters that have books centered around them. So it's
They're
frustrating. And
so terrified of frustrating because they're so terrified of doing anything in a book that could change a potential story they want to tell on the big screen in live action or animation. But the problem is, it's like they're not making those stories anyway right now.
right.
That's what's so frustrating is you're not telling those stories anyway, and you don't know what you're doing. But you know what?
Yeah.
That's why we are sitting here today compiling a list of all the characters we need to see more of and constructing the stories that those characters are going to be needed for.
Let's do it, man.
All right. So if you are just now joining, just know that Tom and I are about to engage in a draft here. We're going to be drafting characters that we want to see more of in Star Wars. So once one is off the board, we cannot, select them again. We'll go back and forth until time is up or we run out, whichever one comes first. And we'll discuss, of course, the merit of the selection. Was it too high? Does this person go way later? In the comments, let us know characters you want to see again as well. We might, be mentioning them on the show for sure. I have 21. If you mention one on there that I don't have, I will be surprised. If that has to be legit. My ground rules, I don't know if Tom, we didn't talk about the ground rules. My ground rules are they have to have appeared on the screen. Like they have to be on the screen in some capacity for me to choose them. So I'm thinking I've watched them or I've seen them on my screen at some point. I'm not pulling I'm not saying like I really want Elzar Man from the High Republic, or I really want this random character from my Legends book, or I want the Yuzon Vong here because I really want to bring in this. Like no, it can't be anything from just like a book or comic initiative. Like you mentioned Dr. Aphra being someone, and I don't have her on my list. She might be on yours. I'm perfectly fine if you break those rules for your list. I'm just saying, just know that's where I'm coming from with mine.
Let's do it.
Go first, Tom. I'm giving you first pick.
Okay. And you're probably going to get mad at me because you mentioned this morning, but I was thinking of one character that I really want to see again that I felt like had a very unfinished story, and that's Kira.
Ooh, Kira going first. I thought Kira was going to make an appearance on the show this evening. So I went ahead. I picked the 10 characters that I maybe thought pretty strongly would pop up or at least my top 10 are on there. But anyway, so Kira is there. Tom, dive into it. Why Kira?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like I loved her story. I loved her dynamic with Solo. I loved everything that we're building up to, and then of course the ending with Darth Maul. I wanted to see more of her, and I know they explored her story a lot more in the comics. But I want to see more of her on the big screen. I mean, she's around during the, I guess, original trilogy era. So I feel like I need to see more of her. I want to see, it'd be great for her and Han to get, somehow, I guess, cross paths again. Somehow, if they do it, if they recast him or if they, CGI or whatever, I'd love to see her and him cross paths, especially with Leia being around. So,
are you familiar with comic Kira at all?
Not too much. Not too much.
So a lot of her story is very fleshed out in comics in terms of what happens. There is a lot of room still to develop this more. There is obviously a precedent for Star Wars kind of breaking some canon with comics in order to adapt a series or a show, a series, show, movie, whatever. So I'm okay with that as long as they stay true to what happens in her story. Her ending, also, spoiler alert for Kira's ending, if you don't want to get that out of the way, is very ambiguous. Like, we don't know what happens to her yet. She's kind of all alone. Someone comes and talks to her. She kind of disappears. And we don't know, we could go into the future post Return of the Jedi with her. We can also obviously pick up right where we left off in Solo with her training with Maul. That would be the ideal place because that's right where we are in, after the movie. So I would say that Kira is definitely up there. She was number 6 on my list, just letting you know. She was number 6 for me. So I'm okay with her going off the board right now because, she's number 6. So I'm not saying she's up there, but also just like, who doesn't love Emilia Clarke as well? Like, who wouldn't want to see Emilia Clarke on their screen a little bit more? I mean, she's
definitely
perfect. So I love Kira. So, and I love the comics with Kira. I loved Crimson Climb, which was a great Kira novel. I really enjoyed Most Wanted, which was like a pre-Solo novel with Han and Kira. I am absolutely all in on the, Kira train. So I'm with you. Now, I'm just gonna go and make some people mad here because all the Ben Solo talk, right? Everyone wants to see, Ben Solo. This is my number 1 character I want to see more of, and I will not apologize for this one. I think that Rey is by far, outside of like a Ben Solo, the most marketable character they have right now. I think Rey is far more popular than people would like to think. She holds the keys to the kingdom. She has the Falcon. She has BB-8. She's probably has 3PO and R2 at this point. She's got both Skywalker sabers. She has her brand new saber. She has the ancient Jedi text. She is the only Jedi in the galaxy that we know of right now. And, she is, part of the dyad in the Force that we just saw, imbued with the life force of Ben Solo. So all of that to say, there is so much left to tell with her story, but also more importantly than just Rey's story, the future of the Jedi are entirely dependent on what Rey wants to do, because she is the future of the Jedi right now. And if we're going to get a story set in a reasonable timeline after the Rise of Skywalker involving the new Jedi Order or whatever iteration of the Jedi comes next, which I think we'd all agree we would like and need to see, Rey has to be a part of that in some capacity.
I completely agree with you. I mean, she wasn't on my list only because there is a movie that's supposed to be coming out with her in it. So I figured she was coming back already. That's, I didn't include.
Let me jump in. I did not include characters that we know we're getting, like for instance, I didn't put Anakin because I know that Hayden Christensen is going to have a big role in Ahsoka season 2. The reason that I included Rey though is because there is so much in limbo with that movie that it just feels like production has stalled. We don't know what's going to happen. And you could reasonably tell me that this movie will never get made. And I'd be like, yeah, I believe you. So that's why I went ahead and included it.
No, that's totally fair. And I agree with you that she really does. I think they're trying to, they want to get it right if they go that way, because like really she's holding everything right now for the future of the Jedi, whether you like it or not. But I enjoyed her so much. I enjoyed her so much in the sequel trilogy. her character, and I know there are people that really didn't. And I'm kind of like, and I felt this way. That's why I was so excited about the Ben Solo news when it broke, because I felt like I got really close with these characters, and I'm like the person that, has a friend and my other friends don't really care for that person. And I'm like, no, just when you get to know them, you'll start to like them. I promise. And I feel like all of them have unfinished business. So they are in throughout my list. So I feel like Ray as well. And I would love her to get another chance with a project that really does well and really kind of brings the fandom back. And I think some of the news with the Ben Solo stuff and the way that the momentum, how that took off, I don't know what's going to happen, but I feel like that helps the chances of Ray getting, or that movie being made, because if, like Luke said last week, that they're testing the waters to see what the interest is in that era, I feel like the fans have really showed up for that. So I'm hoping it goes forward. I don't know in what incarnation it will be, but I'm hoping that does help it and move it along.
I agree. I think the Ben Solo news could play a massive role in Ray's story moving forward. I also would agree too. Like, it feels like all the characters have unfinished business. The way the sequel trilogy flows, or like lack thereof, sometimes kind of doesn't let you feel completely satisfied with everything. At the end of the original trilogy, you just feel so satisfied with how each character's ending is. Leia finds out about Luke. She's happy with Han. Han's like finally embracing his role as the hero, and gets the girl in the end, right? And then Luke has, found his father, helped his father redeem himself. Like, you just feel so good. And then obviously in the prequel trilogy, again, you feel mostly complete with all the characters. I'm not saying I don't like Padme. I don't like Padme's role in Revenge of the Sith, but you don't tell me that at the end of that movie that her arc doesn't feel like complete. When she does that, like, it does feel complete. This one, there is a lot left here where I understand the arcs of all the characters, but I also don't necessarily feel satisfied with how they ended up. And also, a reason I gravitate so much to Rey, I think a lot of the reason why a lot of people gravitate towards Luke Skywalker, and I don't want to. Some people are going to get really upset by me saying that, but what I say is Rey is so much like Luke. Like, the parallels to Luke are obviously just so clear. Someone that is wide-eyed and naive at the beginning, who becomes like this ultimate hero. Just watching her experience rain for the first time, or seeing how much green is on Takadana, and not really embracing herself as a hero, or thinking of herself as someone that the galaxy needs or depends on. I think we as viewers, like, so often can relate to that story of wanting to go on the adventure, wanting to get a call to be the hero, and knowing that we're probably never going to live out that life, right? And there's a level of imposter syndrome I think everyone goes through in life in some capacity at some point, and Rey goes through that as well. And I don't know, there's just so much relatable nonsense going on with her that I just love. But anyway, that's my number one pick. Couple
Strong
comments
one.
here before we keep going.
Yeah, some good comments.
Doesn't she meet Leia? This was about Kira. Yeah, I believe Kira does meet Leia in the comics. I forget exactly when that takes place, but I believe that does happen. And then there's a great time, again, spoilers, where Luke and Leia in Jedi robes, and this is during Leia's training as a Jedi, they come across, and the whole like last Kira section is like this archivist, like hologram type thing, talking about the story of Kira and how she ultimately helps the rebellion win the day in the end, albeit somewhat unintentionally. And Leia and Luke are reflecting on her as well, which is really fascinating. I do not think we will get her in the Maul show. I don't think it's going to get to that point in the timeline. Maybe though, it depends on how many seasons of this. I don't think it's going to happen in season 1, but if we get more seasons, maybe. What do you think, Tom?
Wasn't she in one of the animated shows? I'm trying to remember. In like maybe one of the shorts.
She's in. I don't know about shorts. I know she's in the video game.
Okay.
Outlaws.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see her in the mall show if that lines up. You, like I said, you know more about um the comic, I guess, timelines.
Mhm.
You've been following it closer than I have, so I mean, if they can bring her in, I would love to see her.
Luke would be able to deliver on that if he were here tonight. Luke, unbelievable. I've been waiting my whole life since I was 4 years old to see the future of the Jedi. So I went right back. I with you.
Gotcha.
Yes, Man Slayer says Ray. Yes, partially is because 7 and 8 are basically one big movie. The only time jump is 1 year. That doesn't happen with the other two trilogies. Yep, absolutely. I love how 8 takes place right after 7, but I also am like, man, I kind of wish Ray's journey to Luke had taken longer and she just left, to see him at the end of 7. They don't interact, like they don't meet, and we just see Luke at the end, like meditating or something on Octo, and but she's on her way to go see him. There's it takes her time to get there, but that's how I always felt. Anyway, all right, we'll get to some comments here, but Tom, your pick. Okay. Right now, I have Ray, you have Kira.
Let me go to a different timeline then. Darth Plagueis.
Tom, you took him away from me. You turned her against. You will not take him from me.
Oh my gosh, the best 2 minutes or however long, 30 seconds, however long it was. That was so cool. I mean, I think it was that the last episode of The Acolyte. It was one of the last ones. That was a pretty good one, I think. But just to see him, and I know you're more steeped in the books than I am, but I did read the Darth Plagueis novel, and it rocks.
Oh, it rocks. James Luceno killed that.
So yeah, I mean, totally. I really, I want to see. I mean, obviously, there's much more to the story, but I love how the Darth Plagueis novel talks. I wish that was what was. They had some of that content. Obviously, it came after, but in the Phantom Menace is the first prequel. The way that they lead into that story, because I know the events kind of are a little before, and then they go into the timeline of around the Phantom Menace, but just to see him pulling the strings and his arc. So anyway, I want to see him back. We need him back. I want to know more.
The fact I've said this 1,000 times, and I will continue saying it 1,000 more. The fact that we finally got, after 15 or 20 years, Tom, 20 years of waiting on seeing His Royal Highness, His Royal Majesty himself, Darth Plagueis the Wise, on my screen. I only got him for 2 seconds, Tom. These 2 seconds on the screen right there, and he was taken away from me so fast. And I could go down a list of all of the reasons why. Losers on the internet, a poorly written season of a show. Yes, that can be true, and there can be losers on the internet, and there are just so many more. But oh my gosh, Tom, there is so much to do with Darth Plagueis. The Darth Plagueis series writes itself pretty easily, and is so fascinating because you could tie in some elements of the Acolyte for those fans that are excited about it still. And you have Darth Plagueis, you tie in a young Palpatine, or you just end the series when he meets Palpatine, for all I care. I really don't care how you do it, but Darth Plagueis, and I was one of the crazy people that was theorizing that Snoke was Darth Plagueis back when the Force Awakens came out. I was one of those people that was on that bandwagon, right? And I still, in my heart of hearts, is I wish they just kept that throughout everything. But it's a whole nother round of fan fiction, right? But who knows? He could still be alive. Anyway, but no, we need more Darth Plagueis. I'm with you. He was where was he on my list? He was number 3 on my list. Number 4 on my list. Number 4 on my list. So you got me, though. You got me just a little bit before I was able to jump in there. So it's okay. It's
All
okay.
right. Well, you have the next pick, so I'll let you take over unless there's anything else you want to say about Darth Plagueis.
No, just that His Royal Majesty deserves the royal treatment. Like we need him. We need him. I need him. I need him. Get my Anakin quotes going. I got a few ready to go here, but let's just go ahead. I'm gonna get one more obvious one out. I'm gonna take Ben Solo off the board. I'll go in on the sequel trilogy characters here. I'm fine with that. The only thing here is that if you're getting Rey, I feel like these two are a joint package at this point. Like these two belong together. If you're gonna have a Rey movie, there needs to be a Ben Solo. If you're gonna have a Ben Solo movie, there needs to be a Rey. So I really think the idea of I could have almost said the two of them together for my picks. But it's possible that the hunt for Ben Solo doesn't necessarily feature a ton of Rey. Who knows? Like whatever that movie entailed. I've said last week that I feel like we're gonna get some iteration of the hunt for Ben Solo and some iteration of this Rey movie, and they're going to be merged together or rewritten in some way to help everyone out a little bit. And this is a character I think needs to be fleshed out, both for the fandom itself to maybe fully heal some of the fractures that are existing right now. Not that Star Wars fans won't always find a way to be upset and fractured over something, but there is just a massive division right now, and I think Ben Solo is part of the key to healing some of those wounds and getting people really excited for the future of Star Wars.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think, like, again, I said it last week, the most surprising part of the story to me was Adam Driver's enthusiasm to play that role again, and he's saying how he loved him, and I was blown away by that because he never seemed really that. I wouldn't say enthusiastic, but
Right.
since it ended, I mean, people would always bring it up in interviews, like talk about Star Wars, or he'd joke and have some like comments, but it was very similar to Harrison Ford's relationship with he's like, I did that already, that's done,
Yeah.
and not that, and it almost seemed to me that he didn't have a very good experience, but I was so excited, and it was very refreshing to see how much he loved the character. So now, like I can't see Disney saying no. Well, maybe Bob Iger would, but I can't see Disney saying no to him.
They already did, Tom. They already did.
Like I can't see. Well, after everything that happened in the fan outcry, I can't see why. It's like, it seems like a no-brainer. And
Right.
I think in the Rey movie, it would be really strange if he wasn't part of that. I assumed as a Force ghost, but who knows now?
Yeah, I am with you. I'm with you.
They have a completed script.
Right. All right, Tom, we're back to you.
Okay. All right. Let's see. How about I'll be serious for now, and then maybe some fun ones. But I'm gonna say Kamir.
All right. There he is. Where is Chimera here? There he is.
Because
All right, we got
to me, he was the best part of the Acolyte. Not even close. Like, to me, it wasn't even close. I mean, I know Master Soul was great too, but like Kamir was just so amazing. Like Manny, the way he played him. I did like I didn't rewatch the whole series, but I kind of skipped around a little bit. I saw some of the story, but I was just so engaged with his performance. I thought his not just well, obviously even the physicality of him, but like just the character. And now the news that came out recently in the Acolyte, in that what is the making of, or the art of the Acolyte, they said that he was supposed to be the original Knight of Ren, which I thought was really intriguing and to see. And then someone on the internet was really cool. They said, well, maybe they should do something about the Knights of Ren and have Manny Jacinto and Adam Driver in it, and show the different eras of the Knights of Ren, how they were
biceps.
Yeah, I mean, how cool was he in that show? Yeah, the arms. I know.
Yeah, it was that when
I love him, I want to be him.
when I saw that he was gonna be the first Knight of Rin. It was funny too because I remember we were talking about how apparently that little image for that page has been out there for months and no one really stumbled upon that. I guess none of us read anymore, but that's been out there for a while, and I think it's just really making headway right now because of all the other stuff going on with Ben Solo, and people are piling on, right, and looking for some sort of angle. But this is tragic. I mean, everything about season 1 of The Acolyte being mishandled the way it was is so frustrating, given what did work for the show worked incredibly well. It is such an interesting season of television because the highs in that show are incredibly high, but the low points are so sad. And it all comes down to me is they just did not market this show correctly, and they did not pace and sequence the show the way it should have. And that will always be what killed it. I really believe that if they had just shown us the backstory in the first episode and just made that one big episode and then started from there, instead of going back and forth with these flashbacks, you just start with the backstory and then keep going. And you have these amazing action sequences, and we bring this down to about 5 episodes, maybe 6. We're telling a different story. But instead, we were just led along for a long time, already knowing what was going to happen. But in terms of Chimera, I agree. This makes perfect sense, and it could easily be, brought into a Darth Plagueis type show where you see the discord between Chimera and Darth Plagueis, and the two of them kind of clash. Plagueis maybe tries to take him out. Plagueis goes and finds Palpatine. Who knows how they round that out? But yeah, totally with you on Chimera. This is a solid third pick. So I guess that my top 3 are all still. Darth Plagueis was number 4 for me. Chimera was number 10. I'll be honest. Chimera was number 10 for me, and he should have been higher. Like seeing my list, like he should have been higher, but I got some guilty pleasure picks ahead of him there. But I'm going to go ahead for my third pick. I'll just round this out here. There he is.
I knew it.
There's the lore master himself, Mr. John Boyega Finn.
He's on my list too.
He would be higher on my list. He's number 3 for me. I honestly might put him at number 1 if it weren't for a lot of the comments that he's made that have just really rubbed me the wrong way as a Star Wars fan. And, John Boyega, if anyone has a right to feel miffed and peeved about Star Wars, it is John Boyega. Like 100%, given the racism that he endured, on his time in the show. There was obviously some misleading probably in what his character was going to be doing. There's some disappointment, I'm sure, in his role in episode 9 of that movie. And I am not surprised that he's made some of the comments that he's made. But it's just really frustrating, I think, how everything happened, because we're talking about in The Force Awakens, like an amazing character. And John Boy did a great job throughout Finn. I just wish he had more to work with. I would love to see Jedi Finn. Jedi Finn might be the character I want to see more than anything, because he has what a unique perspective. What a unique opportunity to tell a story about a guy that was a stormtrooper turned Jedi, brainwashed stormtrooper cadet, ready to go. And then boom, he is now a full-fledged Jedi, and is one of the, leaders of the Jedi Order, perhaps the leader of the Jedi Order. What does that look like? It just feels, and just having the blue saber too, he's holding that Skywalker saber there. He just looks so good with the blue saber. I'll be honest, it just looks so good. So I think that this is definitely, I don't think we're ever going to see it, Tom. I don't think we're ever going to see it. And that makes me sad. I'm going to say never on this one, but you know what? It's okay.
Yeah, it's sad too, because I thought of all of them after the sequel trilogy ended, I thought he would want to come back, but again, he, you see it like coming out, some of the stories he's told, some of the things about his experience, and then he, not that he backtracks on that, but then he says, "Oh, but if there was a good story, kind of that same, if there was a good story and a good,
Right.
I would come back." So we're getting like these mixed messages, and I think the fans would love to see him back. I don't think there's anyone that would
No,
I don't
he's
know, but I think
I
he
don't know.
really,
People that I think he would be mad if they
yeah,
announced that he was coming back and he put out a video with him with the lightsaber saying he's coming back. Like, no, he's absolutely doing it.
yeah. So it's interesting because I think now, um, it's kind of like a frayed relationship. So and I'm not saying so much with the fans, but with the franchise, or with with Lucasfilm. So it remains to be seen. I think if they bring back Rey and Ben Solo, it's like, I think the floodgates will open and we'll see a lot of those characters again.
No, I hope so. We'll see. This one's tough. This one's tough. All right, Tom, go for it. Your fourth pick in our draft.
I have these in really no order. I just kind of brainstormed on some names. I'm gonna go at look. I'm an original trilogy guy. I love that era so much, but even I am a little bit tired of it. However, I would love to see Clea come back.
Okay, all
I'd
right.
love to see her show up in something.
I was like original trilogy. I'm thinking like all of these carry. I'm like, is he about to say Luke at this point? Like Lando? I was confused. I don't have Clea like written up. I don't got an image for. I did not put Clea on here, and frankly, I'm ashamed I didn't think of Clea, given how amazing that character is and how amazing the portrayal of the character is in Andor. But go for it.
I would just love to see what she's up to during the events of The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. How she's serving the rebellion,
Mhm.
and what kind of side adventures she's involved with. Maybe helping the Bothans with getting the plans to the second Death Star. So yeah, I would. I mean,
She is a Bothan, secretly.
she was brilliantly portrayed. It was just, I'm so glad she survived the events of Andor. So yeah, I would love to see her show up. I
Wow.
know it wouldn't be probably something as expansive as Andor, but if they go in that time period, I mean, in the timeline of the Mandalorian, I mean, she's hopefully still around. So I would love to see her back.
That's a great pick. I would love another Andor-esque show, and you could bring in a couple people like Clea and a couple characters like that, and to bring it in. There was a character I thought of, another character from Andor I thought of was Dedra. Like
Yeah.
she's not on my list, because and I thought about what if you brought her in for something like New Republic era, like in that Mandoverse timeline, where she's part of the program, like the rehabilitation program, and then she ultimately helps found the First Order as well. Like she for revenge. But I also. And I was like, what a great way to bring Dedra Miro back and have Denise go in Star Wars again. Like that'd be epic, right? But then I was going, no, I just like the idea of her rotting in that prison for forever. Like I just love the idea of that
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
That's how her story ends, and we never see her again. So I was like, never mind, I won't put her on my list. But no, Clea, that's good. I should have thought of that one. All right, this is where we're gonna start getting wonky, Tom,
Let's
because
do it.
this one's good. This is good. Darth Bane, and this is a picture from the Clone Wars arc where Yoda goes face to face with like the spirit of Darth Bane or whatever. And so he barely makes my criteria of, because he does technically appear in some capacity. So he does fit the criteria for my list of you have to be on the screen for me to select you. And Darth Bane makes sense if we were ever to get a Sith oriented show that didn't have to do with maybe like Plagueis, right? We could go back and have some sort of Rule of Two origin and the origins of the Rule of Two Sith and how they began to stay hidden and what Darth Bane was thinking when he came up with, the Rule of Two, how this came about, and we could begin that, journey. This also gives you back even further a little bit to some old Republic type, stories that you could tell. And I don't know, there's a lot of interesting stories you could tell centered around a Darth Bane and branching off from there.
Yeah, totally. I'm all there for it. That was a great arc of the Clone Wars, and I love how they incorporated Darth Bane into it. And yeah, I definitely would be up for that, exploring the lore as far as that, going back that far in the timeline, but like find a creative way like they did in Clone Wars to bring him in. So
Yeah,
definitely.
so I love it. I would love to see him again. And even if you did something future based and you had him appear again as a spirit with other dark side users, I mean, you could find ways to bring Darth Bane back into Star Wars. So I love that. And this comment, Bane would be awesome. It's interesting how they gave him different armor than what he usually has. Bane would be awesome. Great trilogy. Tom, pick number 5.
All right.
Is yours.
Well, the other day
you got Kira, Darth Plagueis, Chimera, Kalea, and now
I got a fun one. The other day I was listening to some John Williams music as I was working, and a tune started playing from the original version of Return of the Jedi. And I was like, I want to be there for the reunion of Cy Snoodles and the Max Rebo band.
I do not have that one on the list. I don't got it written down.
When you said we wanted to do this, that was one of the first groups that popped into my mind. And like, they can do it kind of in a funny way. Now, if I'm not mistaken, was that confirmed to be Max Rebo in the Book of Boba Fett?
I believe, yeah. And then they also said he survived.
But I want the whole band back together. I want to get the band back together. I want Droopy McCool. I want Cy Snoodles. And I want them to do a big reunion tour. Maybe in Mandalorian and Grogu. We'll see.
So, like, you want Tatooine Rhapsody, but with you want that Tatooine Rhapsody Visions episode, but just with Max Rebo band, and you want like 6 episodes of that, and they're going on tour to different hotspots across the galaxy.
Exactly. And stuff is going on. Like Manslayer said, yes, the Cy Snoodles was pretty. She was pretty badass and Clone Wars as far as like what she was doing. So yeah, I would love to see it. I would love to see it. Like each episode would be like kind of like following them on tour, and then all hell breaking loose in different, like, in behind the scenes of what's going on in the Star Wars, like in that timeline. So yeah, that's my next pick.
Awesome. Well, we're laughing right now. Now we're gonna start crying. I want Obi-Wan back. Obi-Wan and Satine. Give me so we're not bringing Ewan back, but we're going back and we're gonna tell like the story of Obi-Wan and Satine on Mandalore, that mission. This could be like a little mini series, or something like that. I would love to see the story of how Obi-Wan and Satine first met, how Obi-Wan fell head over heels for future Duchess Satine, how he almost chose to stay, like the decision, the inflection point of the series could be him choosing the Jedi Order, over staying with Satine, and you following Satine, maybe wishing that she, wants to tell Obi to stay, but couldn't quite get around to it. But I thought this would be a fun way to have more Obi-Wan, but also it doesn't involve Ewan, so that would be tricky, and that would be maybe a little frustrating for people that might not be able to support it. But if you just love the character of Obi-Wan, then I think this could be something that people might enjoy.
So you're saying as an animated?
I'm saying show? I'm saying animated, or like I don't really have like a designation for it. I'm just saying the story told in some capacity.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much more you feel like to that story of the two of them. That was a really surprising arc that he had, someone like that. It was almost like foreshadowing of Anakin and Padme, or kind of like, you know, it's funny how they both lost the ones they loved, and you know that it's very interesting to see, what that did, how that formed, the way that Anakin's relationship with Padme kind of forged who he was, and
Yeah.
how that did that. I'd love to see how that actually affected Obi-Wan,
Mm-hmm.
because we don't see much of it.
We don't.
It's hinted to, and then we see, her end in Clone Wars, and yeah, that would be really intriguing. I like that idea.
Because I was like, I want to get more Obi-Wan in here somehow, but I could not think of anything else that we really need to see from Obi-Wan outside of that, story, maybe. So anyway, uh, what are you up to? Or sorry, what are you up to? What is your next pick? What's your next pick?
Okay, I'm gonna go with an easy one that they can easily bring somewhere, and that
The
is
Squad come back?
what's these. I want to see Chewbacca again.
Oh, I'll be honest, I don't have Chewie,
I
but
feel like that's an
I'll
easy
write him
one.
up real quick.
Obviously, the big three is always in my heart, but I want to see Chewbacca. They can easily bring him into something. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, he's going to be around for a while. I mean, he may even show up in
Mm-hmm.
Starfighter. Who knows? I mean, he's
That'd be a fun cameo. He would be a fun cameo
yeah.
to show up in Starfighter. I think that if there's ever a Ray Ben Solo like Ray movie or whatever, Chewie's gonna be in it. Like they're gonna find a way to work him in it. He's too critical to her at this point. You think that Chewie and Ray went on that mission together in The Force Awakens, and Chewie's lost Luke, he's lost Leia, and then most importantly, he's lost Han, and now he feels like he's lost Ben. Who do you think would be the very first person to sign up for a hunt for Ben Solo? It's probably Chewie. Like
Yeah, that makes sense.
if Ray needs anyone to come with her to help in this journey, Chewie's signing up first and foremost. There's that deleted scene that we never got in The Rise
Mhm.
of Skywalker, where that when Chewie's held prisoner, they've like torturing him, and Kylo's like looking at him, sees visions of his past, and then Chewie basically says like he forgives him, he doesn't hold animosity for him, like Chewie loves him, and so I think Chewie would 100% be the first one in line to go get Ben if that's what it came down to.
It's funny because when I said Chewbacca, I didn't really. I says, well, I don't know what they can do with his story at this point, but that would be really cool to see, because there was something going around online about, like, pencil sketches and like drawings of him kind of like taking
Mhm.
care of Ben Solo when he was young. I forget where it was posted, and it was like, when you think about it, he grew up, with him,
Mm.
with Chewbacca there, Ben Solo, and
Mhm.
it makes it more bittersweet about everything. And then Chewie tries to shoot him with his bowcaster, when he um, sticks his lightsaber into Han, and so
Yeah.
you think of like the emotions there. Like I think that's something they can do. Like, if they
Mhm.
if they are going to bring Ben Solo back, that would be like a complication and like an interesting.
He's such an easy character to slide in there. Like
That's the thing. That's
he
how I
just
feel.
belongs. He just belongs in there.
He's
So I have my next two. I have basically tied, and it's really hard for me to choose. My head wants me to pick this one first because I think it would make more like sense, I guess, in terms of character story and what like the gravity of this character returning is. But I have to go with my heart, Tom. I have to go with my heart, and there's an easy story to tell with Omega, and I love Omega. She
mm,
is our precious, precious child. She must be protected at all costs, and we must look out for her, but we also have to let her spread her wings and go join the rebellion as a pilot. How was the rebellion for Omega? Did she survive
mm.
the Galactic Civil War? What was Omega doing? I have a hard time thinking she was sitting on her hands after the Rebel Alliance was victorious against the Empire. Is she around in the Battle of Exegol? I didn't see the Marauder there whenever, we had that big, screen of all the ships. So I want to know, where is Omega when she leaves Hunter in this scene? What happens to her? easily told in an animation series. You can have her reuniting with Rebels crew. I was saying there's like 3 ideas for other Bad Batch books I came up with, and like one of them was you just fast forward to like the time of Empire Strikes Back, and it's Omega and Echo, and they're founding Echo base on Hoth. Echo sacrifices
Mm,
himself in order for the rebellion to have this base, and you get the batch together. You could do a Bad Batch crossover story with the Rebels crew, and this could be an easy way to show why Omega even more so wanted to join the rebellion. But yeah, I think that there's definitely some easy ways to bring Omega back. And she is, I think, a universally beloved character in the animation world. Like, I don't think there are people out here hating on Omega. And if they are, like, I don't want to meet them.
yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I know we're kind of in agreement with a lot of these. We're not really pushing back on each other, but yeah, it was interesting how they ended Bad Batch when she was going off, and forgive me if I forget, but was she joining them at Yavin, or was it? I don't recall what era of the rebellion she was.
So I don't believe it says. And
Yeah,
here is my headcanon. Have I told you my
go for it.
headcanon? So my headcanon on this, and because I don't believe it's entirely accurate, but timeline wise, just kind of looking through it. And again, this may be entirely wrong. I always kind of envisioned Omega joining the rebellion right after Ezra's sacrifice and the liberation of Lothal, just
Hmm.
because it felt like that was such a launching point and a launching pad for the rebellion to grow into what it became. Because in that, like, in the epilogue from Sabine, she's talking about, the rebellion, won and showed the galaxy that we could fight back, and we needed pilots, and we had more pilots at that point, and people are coming on board. And I just kind of thought that, if Omega and them had run into Hera again at some point, or run into some of those people that they, reunited at some point, then maybe she's like, oh, I gotta help my friends. Like, I need to go help them. But it's also, to me, if that's the call, then I just don't see Omega signing up after the destruction of the Death Star. You know what I mean? I just don't see her being that person that signed up after that. Like, I feel like she was in this fight from the very beginning, as early as she possibly could. And obviously, she's going toe to toe against the Empire as a kid. But here we see her, I'm assuming as like a teenager, like, late teens or whatever. I just have a hard time thinking she's sitting on her hands while the rebellion's out there. I think this is probably like maybe post Lothal.
Right. No,
Lothal
that makes sense.
pre-Yavin.
That makes sense. Trying to, I need to rewatch that scene, trying to get an idea of how old she is,
Yeah.
or how old
Same
she
thing.
looks in
Yeah.
that.
So I'm like post Lothal, pre-Empire,
That
or
makes
pre-New
sense.
Hope, pre-New Hope.
Right. Right. That makes sense. Because when
So
we're
yes, I
at,
guess she is joining a Yavin at that point.
yeah, because at that point, it's like they have a pretty good group of
Mhm.
pilots, at that point in the game, and always, obviously growing. But like, yeah, that would be great. I really want to know more about her story, and what, like, like I said, maybe they'll bring Clay in there too. Like I
Leia
want to know.
Omega spin-off show.
Yeah,
Talk about those two would be fun together, actually. Like, that'd be fun to see those two together.
yeah.
Two
It
very different personalities.
It's so funny because, like, yeah, growing up watching the old movies, it's like everyone seems so, like, kind of, yeah, we're all in this together. It just seemed like that, but Andor really, I kind of felt like it expanded so much to see, like, man, they had to find a way to get along and get
Mhm.
over their differences. It makes it much more real, and all the personalities and all of the backgrounds of the different characters, so that's really cool.
Who are you going with your 7th
All
pick?
right, we're getting to almost to the end here, so I guess I should pick a big one here. Um, I feel like I'm getting too, like, basic though, but I really want to see the big three again. I want to see Luke,
Just
Han, and
all the
Leia.
big three.
Yes, I mean, I don't know. I would. I think I would rather. You know, I don't want. I. It's like I want to, but I'm afraid of how they're going to do it. I don't
Mhm.
want it to be too much, but I would want them, even in Mandalorian and Grogu, I want them, they have to be, I guess, at least mentioned.
Mhm.
I think, that's my opinion, but I really want to see them somewhere else. I would love to see an animated show after the events of Return of the Jedi, kind of like
That'd be nice.
around that aftermath,
That'd be good.
those novels, like that time period, just to see them
Mhm.
rebuilding. And I think animation is a safer route to go because
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about, are they going to recast? Are they going to CGI? I would kind of be fine with both, but I think
Mhm.
recasting would be better ultimately because then they could tell more stories with them. But yeah, I really want to see them back.
I I can't blame you there. I'm good. On live action, I'm pretty good. I think little sprinkles here and there is good.
Yeah,
I would love an animated show. It's wild to me that we have so much animated Star Wars and there's no Luke, Leia, Han in animated Star Wars. Leia shows up in
right,
an episode of Rebels, an episode of Resistance. Luke
right.
is like waddling around as a 5-year-old in Rebels, for 2 seconds. Han's not in animation at all, really. So it's one of those
Yeah,
where there's there's so many comics involving that era that it's hard to create a show at this point. But I'm like, if you did
yeah.
like post episode 6 and
Hmm.
they're destroying the rest of the empire at that point, and then you could even have Luke begin his journey to find Exegol and discovering Sith secrets and
I
sprinkle in different adventures or just create new things. There's going to be obstacles that come up and come into play.
right.
So I'm totally down for it. Uh or also like, you know what? I'm sure you can easily work around some comics and make this happen. Like there's easy ways to make these things like happen if you really get a good team together. So I'm with you. So I have a massive, massive cut here. All right. This is bonkers. You ready for this? And this
Let's
was
go.
pushing my criteria to the limit. That is the Tar Vizsla statue in Star Wars Rebels.
Uh-huh.
So Tar Vizsla does appear on my screen. Therefore, we can have a Tar Vizsla show about the very first Mandalorian Jedi and what that would have meant to the Mandalorian culture, what that would have meant to the Jedi
Mhm.
Order, and then when he dies, you can fast forward and have the show finish off when the Mandalorians are breaking into the Jedi Temple to take the dark saber back. And then they use that to unite the factions of Mandalore, which I doubt was an overnight easy task to do. Mandalorians, you get the lore of Mandalore. You are going back again where you kind of have a clean slate as long as a couple of plot points hit. And who wouldn't want to see the forging of the dark saber? Who wouldn't want to see warring Mandalorian factions? Who wouldn't want to see a Mandalorian Jedi? Who wouldn't want to see the dark saber then uniting Mandalore for the first time after we just saw the unification of Mandalore post dark saber in the Mandalorian? So I don't know. It feels like that would be fun. And this is like, I know this is pushing to the extreme here because we have the Darth or Tar Vizsla statue, and then they have like the brief little animation when they're telling the story, and
I
so
love that how they did
he's like
that.
moving around a little bit, and I forgot to get a picture for one of those. I was gonna do that too because like if we do by this, it's like you could have the Darth Revan show, like all of these things because
Mm.
they like there's the statue. I think there's a statue of Darth Revan in there, but I think there's like a Darth Nyla statue as well in Exegol, but this is in your face. This is they talk about Tar Vizsla.
Yeah, I mean, I love those arcs, even with Paz Vizsla and in the
Mhm.
Clone Wars. That when Maul took over Mandalore. I mean, those are some great stories, and
Yeah.
I think this would be really cool. I don't know. I don't know if a whole show, if they would do a whole show, but like even if it's part, like even in a flashback about it, to add more. I felt like in season 3 of The Mandalorian, they could have done more with Mandalore as far as it. I felt like they, the last episode was kind of cool, like how they when they were finishing that quest, but I felt like it was kind of disjointed. It didn't feel to me like
Yeah.
this. I felt like there was better stuff done in the Book of Boba Fett in the Mandalorian episodes. So yeah, but yeah, I would totally come back to this. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see more about the ill-fated Darksaber. I remember seeing that for the first time in Mandalorian season one,
That was epic.
and yeah, I was like blown away. So, and unfortunately, it was destroyed by Moff Gideon. But I would love to see that. I feel like you came out with some really big swings. You got some really good characters that I didn't even think of. So,
So I got some more. We can do some rapid fires if you're out.
all
If
right,
you're out of
rapid fire.
ammunition. I'm surprised you didn't bring this up. I'm
She
surprised
was
you
on
didn't
my
mention.
list.
Yeah, we got Bix. I definitely had Bix. She was next on my. I'll be honest, she was above Tart Vizsla on my list. I just really wanted to. I just couldn't wait anymore. I had to pull my Tart Vizsla picture up. I have Bix, and her and Cassian's child, mixed at like tied with Omega. Basically, they were right there, like neck and neck, tied. And Omega's story kind of writes itself pretty easily. This one definitely is maybe a little controversial here because how do I say it? Because some of it is the ambiguity and the not knowing what happens to Bix and not knowing what happens to Cassian's child and the poetic nature of it's the woman that he loves that he'll never get to be with and the son I think they said it was a son, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I
And then
believe so.
okay. And then like
His child.
the child that he will never know that he has. And there is a poetic nature of like they just kind of disappear. They live a quiet life and never really knowing that. But there is a beautiful story there of this guy, this child within, an older Bix, this child is growing up trying to figure out who his father is or has figured out who his father is and tries to take up the mantle and is like a resistance fighter against the First Order, something
Mhm.
along those lines. And
Snap.
I think there's a big story to play
Yeah,
there,
we know his story. Yeah, definitely. I wonder what they'll do. It's so hard to picture, and I even talking about Clea, it's so hard to picture these characters returning and not being directed by the people of the staff,
Mhm.
the crew of Andor, written by the Gilroys and
Yeah, I'm with
directed.
you.
So it's kind of hard to picture. I hope if they do that, if they continue that story, like you said, they could do it subtly. It doesn't have to be like in your face that it has to be a show about Andor's child, but they could have him or her in some kind of
Involved in something. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I think that makes total sense. And there's also we get the epic line of his son or whatever going up to someone and be like, "You have no idea." Like he's like, "I've been in this fight since my father was 6 years old." Like that means so
Exactly.
good. I've been in this fight since my father was 6 years old. So that was good. Okay, so I have a bunch of other rapid fires here if you want them.
I'm gonna throw one in.
Okay, go for it. Yes.
Kanan
Kanan. I did not have Kanan down.
in maybe like an Ahsoka flashback in season 2. Well, I don't know if they'll do that, but like something with him and Hera. It'd be cool to see Freddie Prinze Jr. show up with Hera. I don't know if
I
they do
love the
that.
idea of so here this is an interesting conversation that we can have because who cares about time at this point.
Right.
There's so much like Kanan dies, he makes the ultimate sacrifice. No one is ever going to let me get Bix off the screen now for this conversation. When Kanan dies, I don't think anyone would ever question the fact that this dude is a freaking Jedi. Like, this is the Jedi of Jedi. Like, this is the Jedi of Jedi moves, right? You're sacrificing yourself for someone you love. He dies. But is there a possibility that we could see a Kanan Force ghost? Because the whole thing is like, Qui-Gon was the first to learn, that we know of, was the first to learn how to, reappear from another world of the Force, right? For immortality, right? And Yoda learned from him. Yoda trained Obi-Wan, and all of that, takes place. And then we see Anakin as a Force ghost, right? And I have always been able to say, like, he's the only one that we see that's as a Force ghost that's not in that same, like Yoda or Obi-Wan, right? Or Qui-Gon, who shows up in Obi-Wan. But I always just attributed that, like, he's the chosen one. Like, he was conceived by the
Yep.
Force, so of course he's going to return to the Force and be able to be a Force ghost. Like, he's the chosen one. He's Anakin Skywalker. So I've always been able to kind of move past that. And then Leia appears as a Force ghost at the end of Rise of Skywalker. Well, that's, the daughter of the chosen one. And I'm sure that Luke was figuring out how to do this as well. And so when Luke and Leia show up at the end, I'm like, the twins. Of course they know how to be Force ghosts, right?
Force ghost dynamics kind of break my mind.
Right. So, but here's my problem.
But before you say that, Kanan did show up again in The Rise of Skywalker, his voice at least.
So his voice, yes, his voice does, but not him physically being there. And again, I can almost attribute that to this is the Nexus event of the galaxy. You have all of the Sith that live and are breathing in their knowledge inside of Palpatine. And, we have all of the Jedi coming together, through the forces. Like, this is our ultimate balancing act right now, trying to get rid of the Sith once and for all. And that takes place. So so the voice I'm okay with. It's the manifestation and the appearance, because like, Kanan was amazing. But every other Jedi for, 10,000 years was unable to figure this out? Or if it's just you're good enough, like you're a great enough Jedi, you're so in tune with the Force that you could just appear as a Force ghost. Like, then at that point, I'm like, there's no other Jedi in the last 10,000 years that were as in tune with the Force as Kanan. Like, that's impossible, right? Like, there's just no way. And so then we're breaking the rules of canon and the lore. And so that's where it's like maybe a flashback with Kanan. Like, flashback.
That's where I was going. I think one thing I will say in my headcanon to kind of explain it, and this really has no grounding in any kind of thing that has been said or seen or written in Star Wars, but I think that if Qui-Gon kind of like found a way to communicate and, keep his essence, basically becoming one with the Force, and then keeping his identity, maybe he opened the door for all the other well, like he kind of went in and was able to share that with all of those who died after him. So
I like that. Or is it there's so many like
we don't
things
see
where,
Mace Windu,
because it's like and I don't, you might know this too though. When Qui-Gon, I forget if they even talked about this or if this is ever in like a reference book or some random George Lucas conversation, right? Was this something Qui-Gon discovered after death, or was he like studying this while he was alive? And then, like, when he was dead, his spirit was somehow prepared, or did he discover how to come back from another world of the Force because he was Qui-Gon Jinn, and he just is that good, and he could come back to where other Jedi could reach that same stage at some point. Qui-Gon just was able to, because he's freaking Qui-Gon, do it so quickly. That's where I'm like,
There's some hints, I think, in that last arc of season 7 of the Clone Wars where he talks about Dagobah and like that place being like really strong with the Force,
Mhm.
and I think it's all intertwined. And like you see him appear like when they go to Mortis, right? Was that on
Mhm.
Mortis? I think so.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Like I think that I don't know if it was before he died, but when he died, I guess some of these things became clear to him. I'd have to rewatch all of that. I don't think I've seen an exhaustive, like I said, explanation or
And I don't
someone
like it
talking
being
about.
so loose. Like, let's just be loose with it. I'm
Yeah,
good. We don't need a
yeah.
hard
It's like,
message.
okay, that happened.
I
I
like
just
it.
want to see them again. There's a lot, like it's very hard to find a thread of consistency with the way Force Ghosts have been um,
Right.
portrayed and written about and seen in Star Wars. Like to say, okay, this is exactly how it works. But
That's not
yeah,
how the Force works.
exactly.
Mm. Well, I got a few more just
Go
rapid
for it.
fire ones here, okay? I got Count Dooku. And
I love
this
Count
one,
Dooku.
uh I actually was doing a pod with Miguel like months. This may have been over a year ago. And like a year ago at this point. And we both kind of talked ourselves into a Count Dooku miniseries. And it was we really liked Tales of the Jedi, and we're like, why not just do a Count Dooku miniseries here where you have him being trained by Yoda. You have him, there's so many generations that are involved. Like you have Yoda and him are training. He's training Qui-Gon. He is leaving the Jedi. He is then involved in the Clone Wars. And then, something leading up to his death. I don't know. But like just a Count Dooku miniseries actually would kind of go pretty hard. Um,
I love Count Dooku. I think he's one of the most intriguing characters. As far as just the depth of his character, and I feel like we didn't get enough of him in the prequel trilogy. I like how they filled him out in the Clone Wars,
mhm,
and yeah, I mean, like in the novelization of Revenge of the Sith, they talk a lot about some of his backstory and like what he really was planning, and he was Palpatine was kind of leading him in this direction of what his ultimate plan was,
mhm.
and Count Dooku was really expecting something different. It really makes it resonate when
Yeah.
Anakin he tells Anakin to kill him, and that look he
He's
has.
like,
Yeah, it
what?
makes it resonate. If you read the novel, it's actually there's much more detail there. So, but yeah, I would love to see something with him. There are some, you know, I know it's floating around. It's kind of controversial. There's a lot of AI videos
Mhm.
going around. Some are really awful. Some are like decent, like getting there, and like they do some stuff that's pretty interesting. And I think he was in one of them. And it's, I mean, like, and in a few years, this might be like, to the point where we could bring all these characters back with some of those technologies. But like, it was very interesting. Like they were doing, I have to find it. I think there was one that they had with him it was pretty well, like conceived. Although, you're fighting with that uncanny valley, but like, yeah, I would love to see something, but like you can get someone young to play young Count Dooku. And I think that
Mhm.
would be like an amazing I would see a series like that. That would be awesome.
So I put Luminar on there. I think that there is a
Mm,
tragic animation story or whatever kind of story they want to tell. There's a tragic story in there of how she's used to bring other Jedi Order 66 survivors in and to capture them. I think that there is and I genuinely thought of remember when Terra Sinube is seen in the Inquisitor Vault in Kenobi as like a trophy? And I legitimately thought to myself about what if old Terra Sinube heard that his old friend Luminara Unduli, one of the great Jedi masters, was alive. And what if Terra Sinube was like the first one captured by the Grand Inquisitor
mm.
that's why he's got him as like a trophy in the Inquisitorius. And you have
Right.
Nurse Nube being captured, Luminara being used to lure Jedi in there for a while before she's ultimately like killed. Maybe she's tortured for a while, and then like, all right, just kill her, and then we'll still use this as much as we can. But I don't know. I think there's a story there.
Yeah, that was a very interesting part of the Obi-Wan series, and I feel like that thread was just kind of left. I mean, unless they're going to do something with it in the New Republic era. Yeah, I would love to find out more about that. Definitely.
This was mentioned in the chat already, but Gunji, I mean, who doesn't love a Wookiee Jedi? And he's still alive here at the end, so maybe so.
I'll
Maybe
be down
so.
for that. There's no one you mentioned that I would say no to.
Shakti, can we finally get the definitive ending of Shakti's life? There's so many endings out there. And here is what I actually would love is if they did some sort of animation, because in like the micro series, like the 2D version, there's the Battle of Coruscant. But I would love in the new Clone Wars style, like the new animation style Clone Wars, if we got like a full Battle of Coruscant rendition, and you had the ground assault that was taking place and the capturing of Palpatine. How did they infiltrate Coruscant so easily and definitively say, like, where was Shakti when she died? This is
Right,
what
right.
happened. This is the way she could appear. Plo Koon, I got Plo Koon on here. I think that there could be some fun animation stories there. He finds Ahsoka, more about how Plo Koon, I guess, was a mentor figure for her at a young age as a youngling. I always found it interesting how close they were, but Plo Koon was not her master. So did Plo Koon have another apprentice at the time? Or, why did they, specifically was Plo someone that helped choose Ahsoka for Anakin? Is that something that was at play? There's the whole Plo Koon was the fake Jedi they used in scripts for Mandalorian season 2
Right,
to
right.
convince people. Could Plo still be alive?
That's a hard one to I love Plo Koon, but like, yeah, it was pretty cut and dry that he
Yeah.
met his demise there.
Here
I
is
saw something going around, and there was a deleted scene, or that was like extended, that he tried in the clip I saw, that he tries to eject, and then they shoot him down as he's ejecting from his ship. So yeah, they wanted to make sure that he was dead.
Manslayer bringing the first no of the night from my lips, because no, Nadar, screw Nadar. What a dweeb, what a loser, what a jerk, thinking he was better than Kit Fisto, that he could just go and take on General Grievous by himself. Like, who do you think you are, Nadar? When he got killed, I was like, you know what? Addition by subtraction, Jedi Order. Addition by subtraction. That's horrible.
What
Oh,
we
man.
didn't mention the most important person of all, Hitster.
Kidster. That's so wizard.
We'll see if you
Don't
can
worry.
actually complete a high five after all these years.
Was it what did he say? Like about finishing the race or something? You'll definitely finish this time or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh man. This is one. Padme. I have Padme on there. This one's tricky
Mm,
though. There's because her ending is so defined, is so clear. And she is in these Clone Wars arcs, but she kind of disappears, and she's such a critical part of the formation even of the rebellion at the beginning. And she's mentioned a lot in the book Mask of Fear. She's mentioned a ton. So I would love for them to find a way to bring Padme in. Just one of the great characters, underutilized in many ways. And I just wish that there was more they could do. This would be really tough given how young Padme is and when she's here, and Natalie Portman is obviously not 19, 20 years old anymore. But hey, whoa, no shots at Padme. Natalie Portman. She looks great. She's always the GOAT. But this won't be tough unless you were recasting and doing like a very young Padme becoming queen sort of thing, or
Right.
you just did straight animation, maybe flashbacks in Ahsoka season 2. If we're lucky, we'll get like a flashback or something.
I would love, honestly, and this wouldn't be a whole series or anything. This would maybe a scene. I would love an alternate, like a flash forward, seeing what it would, or seeing like an alternate reality if Anakin had never turned and they stayed together. And I've seen some of those, like, people do, like, like the Skywalker kind of family, and if maybe seeing what may have been, and maybe that in some way, like, affecting Vader at some point, before his turn to the away from the dark side. I think that would be kind of cool, like something like that, and you could use Natalie Portman now with that.
So here's my last 3 rapid fires, and it's Quinlan Voss. You could throw Asajj Ventress in there as well, like a Quinlan / Asajj. Like, are you getting some sort of story there? We see that Asajj in the, oh my gosh, the Tales of the Tales of the Empire, I guess, that we got with Asajj Ventress, or no, Tales of the Bounty Hunters, and she was it was like Tales of Bounty Hunters with Asajj, right? It was Tales of Bounty, yeah, it's like Tales of Bounty Hunters that we got with Asajj. That there are more stories there for her, and
Sorry, my
we can
kids watching.
still. No, you're good. And we could still go there. Quinlan might play a role in that, but also, Quinlan was alive, and Obi-Wan Kenobi, he passed just like a few weeks prior or whatever. So Quinlan Voss was still alive. You could have a Quinlan existing in some sort of, if you were to do an Obi-Wan Kenobi season 2 or some other story taking place in that timeline, he's someone that could exist.
I feel like they had a perfect opportunity to introduce him in Obi-Wan when they mentioned him, and then I guess it was just a reference, but thought it would have been a good opportunity.
I got 2 more. This one will be easy, and then the last one I think is really exciting. Mon Mothma. Like, I still think there's more stories to tell with Mon Mothma. I think that if you never saw Mon Mothma again, that's fine. I think she's probably going to show up in Ahsoka season 2, given we saw her a little bit in season 1. So that's why she's more of a rapid fire. But then there's also the fact that if you really wanted to advance further, where was she when the Republic was destroyed? Like, was she someone the First Order sought to kill? Was she someone that stood up and still had a voice for the Resistance, for the Republic that was destroyed? Like, what I have a hard time imagining that, yes, Mon Mothma would be in her 60s, 70s at this point. She'd be very old, but she's probably, still as feisty and fiery as ever, like trying to be at least a symbol, because she was the first chancellor that existed. So I have a hard time thinking that if Mon's around as the First Order starting to gain, steam, that she's just going to sit there and be quiet.
Yeah, it's obviously she wasn't in the sequel trilogy. At that point, like you said, she would be pretty old, but they still could have had her in there. So something must have happened before the events of the sequel trilogy. But yeah, I totally think we'll get her in, especially with what's supposed to happen in Ahsoka season 2 with the battle that's supposed to happen, or the war between Thrawn's forces and Admiral Akbar and the New Republic.
Yeah.
So I think we'll definitely see her. We may see her in The Mandalorian and Grogu.
That's true.
They definitely could bring her in there. So, but yeah, Genevieve O'Reilly is unreal, amazing, and I'd love to see more of her.
So here's my last one. It's Cal Kestis, and I'm breaking my rules of seeing him on my screen, but I played the Star Wars Jedi Survivor and Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, I played that on my TV. So it was on my TV just via a video game, and that opens up a whole can of worms of video game players. That's why I didn't include it, but I was like, you know what? It would be fun to see Cal Kestis. Like, I was just like, I'll throw that in there at the end. Like, it would be fun. Cal Kestis. I do think it's ironic that the thumbnail for our video is that, obviously, like, Nate does a great job putting like our thumbs together for us every week, and we give him the subject, and I could not contact him all day, due to invasion, like lost communications. I mean, one thing, invasion. But Mace Windu is like the thumb for the episode, but we have not mentioned Mace Windu in now an hour and a half of the show. He's getting his first mention. So
I
like,
should have
watch,
saw
there's
the
gonna be
film.
someone that like tunes in, like, I'm just waiting for the Mace Windu part. Like, when are they gonna talk about Mace?
I saw, whenever someone says Mace Windu, of course I would love to see him again, but I never know how they would bring him into a story. However, the YouTube channel New Rock Stars, this is before, I think this is about a year or two ago, they had a thing about like, hear me out, this is how we can bring him back. And it was almost like he survived and he became, like he was like a cyborg, like this whole convoluted thing, but it sounded pretty cool. I don't know how it would fly. And
If there's,
I have
honestly,
to find the video for you and
Mace
send it to you.
might be the character I am most anti ever coming back in Star Wars.
Yeah. This was the only video where he said,
it's like
hey, that sounds pretty cool.
Unless it's pre-Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
Mace. That's the only one I'm okay with coming back. Cal was on our screen. I haven't seen the other second Lego Star Wars. One. I would be so anti Mace being alive still.
Yeah, no, it doesn't make sense.
But I totally get why people are into that, but I'd be so against it just from the standpoint of that moment of Anakin, slicing off his arm and Palpatine sending him, jettisoning him out the window. It just, it hits so hard. And if he's somehow alive, like years later in some random, Disney Plus 3-episode thing, it would just feel like you're just, for John Boyega's sake, you're taking a shot at the lore. We can't have that.
I will find the video and send it to you, though, because they came up with this convoluted way to bring him back, and it sounded it's like kind of cool when you're talking with your friends. I don't think it would really make sense, but it was a very intricate way of bringing him back. That the details escape me a little bit, but I have to find it. It was almost like he survived the fall. He lost, he had lost his memory, and Anakin, or Vader at that point, kind of like turned him into like almost like in Force Unleashed, his apprentice. But like it was very interesting. Like it gets like marks for originality, but still it's kind of like fan theorizing at best, not really something you can build.
I love it. Hey, we love it. We love our theorizing. Anyway, all right, Tom, I have got to get some sleep.
Yeah, me too.
Anyway, this was fun. We had that was a good time. Anyway, follow me on TikTok, Star Wars Book Dude, for random Star Wars stuff here. Check out Tom's articles on Star Wars Newsnet as always. I got that book review, The Last Order, that came out this week. You can go check that out as well. Check out Star Wars Newsnet for all of your Star Wars news updates. We review literally everything. We talk about everything. And if it's credible, we're going to talk about it. So make sure that you are tuning in, following us wherever you can. It was a good time. This was a fun show. We'll see maybe a Visions recap next week. We'll see what else. Who knows what Star Wars has in store for us. There's always something surprising that happens in the month of November, I feel like. So there's no telling where it goes from here. But for Light and Life, everyone, and remember, we are all looking for ways to see these characters again.